Hello everyone, bringing you an unboxing video today which sort of plays into an Australian theme that's been prevalent on the channel recently. Not planned, that's just how things have worked out, particularly with bits and pieces arriving very close together. These parcels arrived relatively soon after I picked up the one previously considered in a recent unboxing video. So more Australian kit arriving. The parcels which have arrived the last couple of days should actually have arrived about 12 months ago. That were sent to me by my friend Kieran in Australia. Thank you very much again, Kieran, for sort of collecting these bits and pieces for me. I tend to purchase things and send them to Kieran. He very kindly sends them on as job lots, which saves on postage in the long term. But unfortunately, when it was initially sent, Australia Post lost the parcel, then found the parcel, then sent the parcel back to Kieran, and he's split it into two and sent it to me again. So it's been slightly delayed, all this stuff arriving, so I'm very happy to have it now. And without further ado, we'll get into the main part of the video and have a look at what has arrived. So as said, we have a couple of box loads of stuff to go through here. So we'll start with this one. I'll just move this to one side here. And we'll start pulling bits and pieces out of it. So, first of all, we have a very kind addition here from Kieran. The badge is just coming off here. But we have a 1960s dated. I think this is 1967 if I remember correctly. You can just see in here if it'll come into focus. There we go. You can just see the 1967 there. Australian slouch hat. This is lovely, I have to say. That distinctive shape. And we do have the Royal Australian Regiment badge there, as you can see. Stay Bright badge, which one of the clutches appears to have come off that. It's come loose in transit, so I will reaffix that. But that's lovely. Thank you very much for including that, Kieran. Little bit of damage there, but this will be nice on display on a mannequin head as part of the Vietnam War displays alongside the berets and so forth. So that's really nice. Thank you very much, Kieran. Another piece of headgear here. We have a small brim Australian disruptive pattern camouflage hat. This is very nice. I have one of the large brimmed examples of these, but it's really nice to have one of these. These tend to be the preferred, the more popular hat. So they're a little bit more difficult to come by because of that, because I guess they got worn out. So that's a nice addition to the DPCU collection. Then we have another addition to the sort of small kit ephemeral items. We have a Swan lager can. This is an earlier example than the VB can I have. Obviously you can see it's been opened with a church key, with the two slots cut in the top there, one to let the air in and one to drink from. A little bit worse for wear in terms of rust and so forth, but I'll try and do some conservation on this. I've got some cure rust, so I'll have a go at the top and the bottom, try and prevent this from rusting further, maybe put a lacquer over it as well, just to protect the areas that have already rusted. But a Swan lager can. I do have a photograph of a chap in 1965 from 1RAR carrying a crate of this in Vietnam, so it certainly made its way over there, along with VB and various other brands. So Swan lager can, nice addition to the sort of Vietnam era small kit collection. And then we have a pair of Australian 3-buckle gaiters or leggings, similar to the US design in terms of shape, but obviously they fasten with 3 buckles, 2 straps around the leg, and then one that goes under the foot. There is a stamp in these. Let's see. Stamp that way up. I'm not sure. You can see the D broad arrow D there in typical Australian purple ink, but not really legible. I don't know if it's clearer on this one. Oh, a little bit. There we go. You can see this one is slightly clearer, but obviously a different. They're not a matched pair, but that doesn't matter. They are a right and left-handed pair, so that's good. So I have a pair of the later black nylon. I think they've become made of nylon later on. I have a pair of those, so it's nice to have a pair of the original late war canvas examples, which were worn extensively in Korea as well. And then we have another of the enlarged Australian basic pouches here. This is a later example than the ones I already have. This is a 50s dated example. You can see 1953. Again, D broad arrow D underneath that in the typical purple stamping there. Fits on the equipment in exactly the same way as normal 1937 pattern basic pouches, but this differs from the earlier examples in having the quick release fastening rather than a press stud at the top there. So it's nice to have one of these, again, typically seen used in Vietnam for carrying extra ammunition. So nice to have one of those for the collection. And then some more disruptive pattern camouflage uniform here. We have, let's have a look at this, a waterproof, which might be labelled somewhere. We have a name and number, beginning of a number written in there. Velcro tab in there, that's to attach something. Let's have a look in here. There'll be a label in here somewhere. Ah, there we go. So there we are. 1995 dated, size XL, so it might be a bit big on me. In fact, it will be rather large on me, but that's nice to have. An example of Australian waterproof disruptive pattern camouflage jacket. Have a look at that in more detail in a future video, no doubt. And then something I've been wanting to get my hands on for a while, excuse me, is a set of Australian double buckle jungle green trousers. So these predate the later examples with the crossover belt. These are fairly standard for sort of Commonwealth and Empire tropical clothing of the Second World War era, with a double buckle to close the waist there, the small buckles and two little straps at the waist there. Not sure if these have been over-dyed, but the label's completely gone there, unfortunately, as you can see. It's possible these are khaki over-dyed green, difficult to tell. But as I say, you can see there the labels have both gone. There's just a green colour to those now. There's nothing visible on them at all, unfortunately. But nice to have those. Missing a button off the back there, so I'll have to find a suitable button. I think I've got some brown battle dress buttons going spare, which are similar to this, so that'll do to replace that. You can see at the back here we have a dressing pocket on the right hip there, and then a single rear button flap pocket there on the left. That's basically typical for Australian tropical trousers, be they KD or JG. So these are a nice fill-in between, well, that late Second War era or mid Second War era through to the Vietnam era. And you do very occasionally see these worn very early on in Vietnam. There's one or two photographs I've seen of them. Very much a rarity by that point, but it's like anything else in the military. If they aren't worn out, then they'll continue in wear until they need replacing. So there we are, a pair of those. And the final thing in this box is the scabbard for an SLR bayonet, or the bayonet for the No. 5 rifle. Take that style of blade. So nice to have another one of these. I believe I do have a bayonet missing one of these, if I remember correctly. I think I'm still missing one. I think the bayonet for the No. 5 that I have still requires a scabbard, so one of those there, which will be good for that. So that's this box done with. We'll bring the next box in now. So a slightly larger box here. And we'll again move this off to one side, and I'll start bringing bits and pieces from it into view. So we have here a very late production Australian, by this point 1937 pattern, but pack, essentially the 1908 pack, but very, very late dated and made in this very odd combination of sort of a pea green and this dark forest green. You see it's dated 1979 there, the Australian store code there, stock number. It is just a 1908 pack essentially, but made very much in an economy form. It's very flimsy canvas, no webbing tips on the ends of the two 2-inch shapes there. You've just got sort of a dope on the end of those to stop them fraying. A little bit of damage to that one there, but that's all right. Blackened brass fittings there, as you can see. You've got this odd little carrying strap on here. You see you've got the straps at the bottom there to take the supporting straps. So just an oddity really, a very late production 1908 pack from 1979 in this weird colour scheme. As I say, I believe Australia at this time was still using the 1937 pattern equipment in training, and then obviously M1956 and Alice components for actual field use. So I believe that's probably why these were still being manufactured so late. But I just like the sort of poor quality of manufacture and the weird colour scheme and everything, and the fact it is such a late piece of that rather antiquated equipment by this point. So just an interesting example from that point of view. You can see here it does have the holes worked into the little weather flaps here, which obviously would normally have eyelets, so you could draw those closed with a piece of cord. In this instance, it seems those holes have been made, but they've just been doped. You can actually see there's no eyelet worked in there. They've just been doped to stop them fraying too badly. So very much economy of manufacturing there. So, as I say, very late production Australian pack. We have some more disruptive pattern camouflage kit here. We have the rear pack, field pack from that, the bum pack or butt pack, more appropriately in Australian terminology. The bum pack. We have here a 1992 dated example, as you can see, of the manufacturer there and the store's code again. The broad arrow under the flap there. Nice to have one of these. I believe I do have one of these already on the equipment. but it's nice to have another one. This came, I think, with a job lot with some other bits and pieces. I'm afraid it's so long now since all this stuff was put together, I've forgot the origin of some of these bits and pieces, but one of those field packs anyway. Then a khaki drill, Australian khaki drill shirt, which is very similar to, in outlook at least, to the later green example. You can see with the angled pockets there. The one we've looked at recently as part of the video on greens. You check in here, you can actually see we have the pen pocket in the left breast pocket there, as we talked about on the jungle green uniform we looked at in a recent video. So that's up again. The label in the collar here, which unfortunately has faded out, but we do have the soldier's number and name there, who this was issued to, and you do have the sizing details just visible in the collar there, as you can see. So again, another nice addition to the collection there. Put that to one side. And then more uniform items here. This is from Kieran. Oh, there's some bits and pieces in the pockets here as well, so I'm going to have fun with this in a minute. This is a later pattern. It needs some buttons. I knew that when it was... that'll be it, I think. That's the buttons in the pocket in a tin, by the feel of it. A little wooden box, excellent. So that's rather nice in and of itself, actually. There we go. So we've got a collection of buttons and so forth there, so that I can fit to this. One of the earlier Great War era buttons there as well, you can see. Bring that up, Australian Military Forces. So collection of buttons and so forth in there. I'll be able to use some of these on this uniform. This is in fact there's a label in the collar here. Australian Theatre Trust. Oh, there we go. It's been a theatre piece at some point in the past as a costume piece. There we are. I'll probably leave that in, actually. That's part of its history, I guess. One or two buttons still knocking around on this. This is the later pattern of service dress jacket introduced during the Second World War, the middle of the Second World War, and then used afterwards. So very useful for Korea, very useful for late Second World War Australian reenacting or mannequin displays, that sort of thing. You'll probably see another Australian themed video coming up soon, as I did want to cover the 3 RAR arriving in Korea in 1950. I couldn't do that because this was delayed, so that will probably be coming up soon. So there will be a bit of an Australian bonanza on the channel going forward. Anyway, that's this jacket that's arrived, the service dress jacket, so very pleased with that. Got some sewing to do there, which I always enjoy. Okay, so what else do we have here? Now this, knocking the camera, I apologise. This is a Mosquito net by the look of it. Let's see here, we do have a stamp in there, or made in Australia 1943. So I believe this looks like it's one of the helmet, the Mosquito net's designed to go over the helmet, I believe, and then be worn over the head, obviously. So that is quite an interesting bit of kit. Obviously got this metal ring in there, and then the reinforced section at the top here, which I believe goes over the helmet, and then the rim of the helmet here, and then obviously comes down over to protect the face. So a Mosquito net there. That's one side as well. And then we have, tied up with this bit of twine here. I'm not going to untie this right now. This is an original Australian Mark 7 ground sheet, or the ground sheet cape as it's colloquially known. Interestingly, in this sort of green colour, which is very similar to the rubberised finish you get on Great War examples of the ground sheets, I believe. So that's rather nice to have, an original example of these. I don't actually have original British examples of the Mark 7 as of yet, apart from a post-Second World War green example. So looking out for those, but nice to have an Australian one in the collection. That's rather nice to have. Put that to one side as well. And another item in here is a late example of the Australian field pack, which had initially been introduced in Vietnam and then was modified with these extra straps and eyelets on to carry extra equipment on the outside. This then goes a step further in having nylon straps, and you've got the Fastex type buckles there marked with the crossed rifles, which is typical of Australian kit of this time period. So brought fully up to date. Interestingly, still using the camouflaged material as a waterproof lining to the flap there. It might be slightly enlarged as well looking at it compared to the compared to the Vietnam era field pack and those manufactured immediately afterwards. Flip this over here, you can see the strap system at the back here. So you've had the quick release straps, you have quick release tabs on the earlier designs. They've been replaced with Fastex buckles here as well, as you can see, but otherwise very similar in the way it's designed, with the upper pad and the lower pad here, the way the bottom and the top compartments close and the side pockets and so forth. Again, something which will be covered in further detail in a future video. And that's out of the way here. And then we have in here some bits and pieces. Right, let's bring these into shot here. So some popular Australian magazines from the time period here. Everybody's is something that turns up in Vietnam in photographs and footage. It was certainly a popular pop magazine of the time period. Everybody's. And then we have a copy of Life Australia, North Vietnam Under Siege, from April of 1967, which is where I'm sort of basing my small kit display, is that mid-war era, 1967. So this fits nicely with the date there as well. This is from June 1965, this copy of Everybody's. But Life Australia. And then we have another copy of Everybody's here, which is in a plastic. So I've managed to get these out of the main plastic bag, but left them in the plastic folders they've come in for now. Another couple of copies of Everybody's, appropriate for the time period. These are both 1967, so fit nicely with the sort of time period I'm going for. So a few bits and pieces off eBay there, which Kieran has amalgamated for me into one big package. But that's everything, so there we are. So there we are. I hope you found it interesting looking through those bits and pieces. There will probably be more Australian content for the channel soon. The reason being, of course, is I've been waiting on several projects or completing several projects based on the kit that's now arrived. So thankfully now I have that stuff that can move forward, particularly the service dress jacket. Once I've got that badged up and got the buttons reattached, there'll be a video featuring that coming up in the not too distant future. So keep an eye out for those. If you'd like to see those videos, and indeed the other content that comes out on the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, little notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a massive thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch, but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down below as well. That's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.